Who in here is married? Okay, pretty much everyone. So I should let you know that the divorce rate in America is 50%, and there are even studies showing that the divorce rate in LDS families is 24%. So according to that, we probably should just give up and not really try, or those who aren't married probably shouldn't try to get married. Well, the sad thing is that's kind of the trend here, and it's sort of like an epidemic. So many families are torn apart because of dissatisfaction in marriage, and many people are too afraid to even get married because they don't want to get divorced. So there was this poll taken that said that 60% of couples feel more like roommates than they do married couples. When Keith, my husband, when we were engaged, so many people wanted to tell us how hard marriage is and how it's not going to be what you expect it to be. And while we appreciated it, it was kind of concerning to us. And at our wedding reception, we got a lot of cards, and we didn't keep all these cards, but we kept a few. And one of them was from a mutual friend, and on the card she wrote, "I'm so excited for you two. Marriage really is the greatest thing ever. It's more happiness than you ever thought possible." So I thought this was interesting. Some people feel more like roommates, and others find the greatest joy from life from being married. So then how do we fall under the latter category? There are many theories that all seem to work together and to make for a great marriage. But today I want to talk about one, and I call it the preventative medicine for marriage. So the idea is that we eat healthy food to prevent disease. We buy home, car, and health insurance in case of an accident. We go to church each week to build good habits to fall back on in times of need. And we date our spouse to reconnect. When a couple uses their date time to reconnect with each other, they're creating preventative medicine for their marriage. So then, we all probably understand why it's important to continue dating your spouse after you get married. But I want to talk today more on the how. And while there's no wrong way to date your spouse, there might be a better way. I want you all to imagine this scenario. It's Friday night, you want to go out with your spouse, but you don't know what to do. So a lot of times this is how it looks for Keith and I. We get all of our schoolwork and our household duties and everything done, and the baby's sleeping, so we rent a quick movie or we watch a TV episode together or something. And while this is fine, this might be relaxing or convenient or a way to unwind, we aren't interacting with each other, and therefore we're not building feelings of mutual love and respect with one another. Now I want you guys to all imagine or think back to your favorite date that you ever went on with your spouse. It could be last week, 3 years ago, or maybe even during courtship before you were married. One of my favorite dates that Keith and I went on was cross-country skiing on our anniversary, and that's a picture of Keith. And while it wasn't necessarily activity that we did that made this date special, because we've also been cross-country skiing together with it ending in anger and frustration. So, but it was the feelings of mutual respect and love that we had for one another. We felt more empowered as a couple during and after the date, and those are the types of feelings that you need to have that mutual, or to have that preventative medicine in your marriage. There's this joke that you send somebody into a restaurant and ask them how you can tell the married couples aside from the non-married couples. And the answer is the married couples are the ones not talking. So there was actually, the sad thing is this is true for some people. But a group of researchers did the study to see if they could get complete strangers to fall in love. And so how it went is after pairing people up, they gave them 3 sets of about 25 questions. And then after each set of questions, they had to look into each other's eyes. And the questions were ones like, if you could live to be the age of 90 and retain the mind or body of a 30-year-old, which would you choose? Or if if you could have any famous person over for dinner, who would it be? Or do you rehearse a phone call before making it? So just simple questions like that. And the results were, not only did couples fall in love, but one couple actually got married from this study. So if some strangers can fall in love from some simple eye contact and questions, then so can spouses. And this is a great example of a reconnecting activity that can be done during a date night. So let's think of some more ideas that can be done on your date nights. And you can make it your own. It can be spontaneous, it can be planned out, or just simple, whatever you want it to be. One thing that Keith and I like to do on our dates is talk about like short and long-term goals, and that helps us to feel more connected. There's this book called $10 Great Dates, and there's a lot of really awesome ideas in it for creative and fun dates that are under $10. And one of the scenarios that was given in this book was of a couple, and they were struggling with finances. He always wanted to buy her gifts, and she was always worried about how much the gift costs and the finances. And so for their date, they went to the mall, and they split up, and they each had $5, and they had to buy each other a gift. And the only rule that they had for this was that they had to stay under a $5 budget. So after meeting back up, they exchanged gifts, and they talked about how hard it was to stay under the $5, and if there was something that they saw that they wanted to get for each other but couldn't because it was too expensive. And they talked about how important it is to have a budget in the family. So you can probably see how this would be helpful in their marriage and in their family. There's a few things that couples run into when they're trying to go on a date with each other, and some of those might be they don't have time, or they didn't prepare for anything, or if they have young kids, they don't have a babysitter, or they don't have enough money to spend that week. So this is where your own couple interpretation can come into play. And some of the most meaningful and memorable dates are ones that are spent at home after you put your kids to bed, or if you're creative with your time, and it doesn't need to be elaborate. And it's important to talk to each other about what is meaningful to one another. So on that note, many of you might have heard of the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. Well, this is one thing that's helping Keith and I learn about what is meaningful to each other. So the idea behind the 5 love languages is that there are love languages that everyone has one or two prominent love language. And when they've been spoken that love language, they feel more loved, and then in return want to make others feel more loved. So Keith's love language is acts of service. So I'll make him dinner at night. And then my love language is words of affirmation. So he tells me how good dinner was, and then we both feel more loved in the end. So so you can see how this could be contributing to our date nights. For example, sometimes Keith, if he wants me to feel more loved, he'll go wash my car or go grocery shopping. And while I appreciate it, it might have needed to be done, but it's not making me feel more loved. And words of affirmation is what will be more effective. And same for him. Sometimes I tell him how great he is, or tell him how much I appreciate him. And everyone needs to hear that every once in a while. But for him to feel more loved, showing him acts of service is what will help him to feel that way. So for a date night, something centered around giving each other compliments would be good for me, but not so good for him. And so in conclusion, I want to give you all 2 challenges. So the first challenge is to not only find out what's meaningful to your spouse, but find out what's meaningful to yourself. And then the next one is to use those meaningful times, things, and places, and incorporate them into your date nights. So I want to remind you all that when a couple uses their date time to reconnect with one another, they're creating preventative medicine for their marriage.